Lands Committee. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and the invocation? Lord, as we come to you again tonight, we do ask for your guidance. We do ask for your presence. We ask you to please guide this meeting and let us do the business of the people with your guidance and your standards in mind. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3, consideration of approval for adoption of a resolution to grant Gulf Island LLC's request for no penalty on industrial tax exemption project number 202000178-ITE. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the resolution as presented, granting the request by Gulf Island LLC that contract number 202000178-ITE be honored without penalty. I have a motion by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by myself. Mr. Cohen Guidry, would you like to say a few words for us?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us time to come before you today. I wanted to give a quick explanation on what happened on these two instances. In 2022, they applied for, actually 2021, they applied for the ITEP for $3.2 million. And as it went through, so in 2022, we had a couple things happen, the end of COVID, and then we had a hurricane that came along from 2020 and 2021. So reporting out from 2021 and 2022, they did report out that the requirement of 2 jobs and $80,000 worth of additional payroll, they had fallen short. And how that's counted is if you have 100 employees in your head count and you add 2 jobs to it and you lose a welder and a janitor, those 2 that you created fall down into your normal head count. And that's provided in December, at the end of December of that year. So there's no time to recoup or hire 2 more people to fill those positions. So that was one of them. So they submitted their report in 2022 and heard nothing back from LED. Went into to carry on during 2023, and they missed the 2 employee and $80,000 once again. Filed the report, sent it to LED. In 2024, they increased their head count by over 30, and they increased the revenues and payrolls to $607,000. They reported that in through 2024. They were notified October 10th of 2025 that they were in error for 2022. So it sat on somebody's desk for several years within LED. So Commerce and Industries Board, as they sent out the letters, they basically said if the local decides not to incur any penalties, that they will go with that. And another piece I would like to, some of you may have seen the press release, a company called IES out of Houston, which is a large company that does, they support and supply to the data center industry, just made a purchase for $192 million when they bought Gulf Island. So they're going to be injecting, they need a big fabrication yard like that. They have stuff in different places around the country. There's going to be more job increases, more money brought here, and more jobs. And changing from the industry that Gulf Island has historically worked in oil and gas and construction, this is going to be one of those things that maybe when the oil and gas is down, this will start to bring up and level out. You know, Bubba, you and I have had those conversations about finding that cornerstone that levels out the lack when we get oil and gas. So I think this, with some of the other great finds that we've had come into the parish in the last 6 months, I think we should really see some leveling out of things.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Mr. Lagarde, do you have any questions? So Mr. Cohen, Mr. Guidry, in essence what you're saying, from what I understand, is basically you requested from the board and received a tax exemption
Yes,
back
sir.
in 2021 and 2022
Yes, sir.
with certain stipulations.
Correct.
Those stipulations were not met.
The job requirement was.
The job requirement
Yes, sir.
was not met. And, so we understand, COVID hit and Ida hit. Because the company did not meet the job requirements, basically you fell into a penalty type situation. The company
right.
fell into a penalty type situation
Yes, sir.
for not meeting the job requirements.
Right. And they sent in the report showing and acknowledging that they did not meet the requirements for those.
Yeah. And who should have or was supposed to notice that earlier?
Whomever their reports go to at LED.
Okay.
And for you can say, actually, here we are in October of 2025, and they're just getting notified.
Right.
And I think it's a formality for the most part. And
Yeah.
they far exceeded their requirements in 24, and year-to-date 25, they're staying on track with
Yeah.
that.
I guess in general, what I would have, my question would be is what happens if the board does not decide to grant the request for no penalty? What happens to Gulf Island?
The LED could go back and they have a few choices of what they could do. So far, they've paid in, it's about a $15,000 a year exemption that they're gaining on this.
Okay.
That they're qualifying from. But, so they could take the last 2 years off, because there are 2 years left on the backside before they offer it for renewal for additional 5 years. They could do nothing. They
Right.
could take what we recommend as a community
Yeah.
through the sheriff's office, the school board, and the parish council in supporting Gulf Island and showing that, they have started to make that climb back up.
Right. So, in a way, I think, one of the board members here always has, some nice input regarding these issues, and I can kind of see where maybe this might be a situation. So, Gulf Island is fortunate in the sense that you guys have made a recovery, right? But what would happen if we were to do this in the future and a company would continue to fall behind on meeting the requirements? I guess it's something that we have to ask ourselves.
I'm sorry, in 2024, the governor changed the rules on it and it removed the additional jobs piece.
Okay.
And they did file for that in 2024, but it was too late to go back. They can't do anything prior to February 24th of 2024. You cannot, you can go in today or the day after, like February 25th, and ask for that to be removed from any of the past ITEPs.
Gotcha.
So the new rules, you don't have that, it's not for job creation. They
Right.
understand, the governor looks at it and says, if they're willing to make this kind of investment in an expansion, then jobs are gonna come and payroll commitment is gonna come with that. So that
Right.
rule has been removed.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Comments? Any other board members have comments? Dr. Kuche first.
Yeah, I didn't see the article, but I heard you say Gulf Island has been purchased, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And the company that purchased them, what do they do?
They manufacture large components on the electrical field for power generations for the data centers around the country.
Okay, so electrical components, that basically is what it is?
They've got an armature division, so everything it takes to put together these huge
Right.
generators is what we would see.
Because there's a lot of power required for these AI.
Yes, sir.
So,
And
okay.
Gulf Island gives them the capacity to put larger packages and be more competitive around the country with some of the larger jobs. And
Very
and as
good.
you're saying, they require a lot of electricity.
Yeah, thank you. I was just
You're very
wondering about that.
Mr. Ford.
Cohen, I always appreciate you coming and doing your homework and presenting a valid, substantial case for your clients. August 4th, 2020, Gulf Island came to this board and asked for that ITEP exemption. I was against it then, just like I have been. And about 6 months ago, you guys came and said, this is the last time you're going to see us. And I was really hopeful it was because it's a situation where you have this multi-million, almost probably $1 billion conglomerate coming to us, a school district, and asking for some sort of relief. You know, hey, can we promise we're going to do better and we're going to get more employees there if you just give us this tax break. But what you don't know, and I mean, you're getting told whatever they're telling you and you're getting the information. But on August 5th, 2020, 3 of my friends that worked full-time at Gulf Island, 2 of them were college graduates and another one was just a welder, they got laid off. Yes, the day after they came to this board meeting and asked for that ITEP exemption. In fact, on August 15th, 2020, I even solicited Bubba and said, hey, do we have any teaching opportunities in the district? Because I have a friend who graduated with general studies degree with a minor in science, and he wants to come teach because he's done with the oil and gas industry, because these type of things happen all the time. So once again, I applaud your efforts coming on and talking to us, and really appreciate, I think you're a well-spoken guy, and I like what you do in this community. I just think Gulf Island's barking up the wrong tree again, and I would hope that as a board we would see, you know, the irony in this and say, you know what, we've given you too many opportunities. I think it's time to just go ahead and, you know, let's deal with this amicably and let us get, you know, whatever penalty is on their plate, and this is the last time, hopefully, we'll have to deal with this situation.
Well, Mr. Ford, thank you for your kind words, and it's always a pleasure to come before you guys and speak. So any ITEPs that were filed prior to the new rule, which was February 2024, you're still gonna see us. Anything after that, so if they put an application in on the 23rd of February of 2024, it predates the new rule, so you could very well see us again. And 2020 was a really tough time. I was in oil and gas at that time, and I remember having to participate in a call on April 1st of 2020, and I asked in the middle of the call, when we had a 50% reduction in employee staff, everybody in management took a 20% cut in pay. I had to shut down 6 operations in West Africa. I asked if it was April Fool's joke, because it was bad. And we felt it as a global position at that time. I don't think it was one thing that, and we're all entitled to our opinions, but I don't think that it was a malicious thing that Gulf Island singled out anybody to say, okay, we're gonna lay 2 people off. I think timing, as the stars aligned and the moon was right and COVID was rampant around the world, you know, that and hurricanes we'd had no control over. But a very valid point. I appreciate you doing your homework, and no, I did not know that.
Mr.
Yes, Ms. Benoit?
Thank you, Mr. Crowdis. I thought I understood, and maybe this is wrong, that if something like this was denied to industry, that the governor still had an option to trump that
Under the
opinion?
new rules, he does.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, but this would fall under old rules.
Old rules?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have no options if?
Correct.
If the board, okay.
And I guess the piece I did leave out, apologize. I always try to give the flip-flop on this. We always look at this as the parish and the school board and the districts are giving up something by granting this ITEP. And it's not on the rolls, it hasn't been on the rolls, so there's nothing. It's an exemption for 20%, but we always leave out the piece in the sales tax that they paid on $3.2 million, which comes to about $176,000, which of that, Terrebonne Parish School Board did get $82,560 as an offset. So it's still a positive net gain on there.
Any other board members? Mr. Dehart?
Sir, Mr. Guidry, I'm going to clarify to make sure I understood some of the comments earlier.
Yes, sir.
Gulf Island was sold to another company,
Yes, sir.
so why are we asking for the exemption for Gulf Island, and they were bought
This came about before the purchase.
before the purchase?
Yes, sir. The notice from LED came out before the purchase. So the LED notification came out October 10th,
Okay.
which was pre-purchase.
Okay.
But there's still I don't know how their corporation is going to line up, but I
Yes, sir.
think they will still be one and the same. I don't know how the name's going to be and the registration and everything such as that. That's how they're going to continue to go forward. But that yard is not going to close down. It's going to continue to grow and prosper and do good things in the community.
So last question. So
Yes, sir.
Gulf Island, no matter who they sold to, is going to benefit from this?
Oh,
Not the new
absolutely.
company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
very
sir.
welcome.
Any other board members? I do have one more follow-up question. So, Mr. Guidry, is this the first time that Gulf Island has missed the requirements of their ITEP?
As far as I know, yes. Okay, so their legal advisement that does all the files, all these for them on their behalf, has said, yes, this is the first time.
First time.
Yes.
And we had a global pandemic and a major hurricane during that time, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir, we did.
Yeah, okay. Any other board members? Okay. Any objections by the committee members of this resolution moving forward, this recommendation moving forward? No objections. I'm going to go ahead and, this is going to move forward just so that for the full board, when this comes forward, everybody will have an opportunity to have a vote. But appreciate your
And
time.
I'm available for any questions. If any of you come up with anything that you'd like to ask that might not have come to light tonight, please let me know. Superintendent Rose already know how to reach me.
Thank you, Mr. Gidley.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
guys
sir.
have a good evening.
So the recommendation passes. Item number 4, consideration of approval for adoption of a resolution relative to the sub-recipient agreement for community development block grant, DR, CDBG DR funding through the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. The committee recommends that the board approve the attached resolution authorizing the superintendent and/or board president as approved signatories on the subrecipient agreement for community development block grant -DR funding as a subrecipient of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, funds to be used for instructional equipment and supplies for the Lewis Miller Terrebonne Career and Technical High School.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Gehart, seconded by myself. Miss Becky Bro. Yes,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Okay, this is simply allowing the superintendent or the board president to sign an agreement so that we will be named as a subrecipient of some of this CDBG money through the consolidated government. So the consolidated government applied for this grant, and a portion of it could be used for them to support public schools in our, as we recover from the hurricane. So our share of the funding that they received will be about $2.6 million. And what we have designated it for is to replace a lot of the equipment at the Lewis Miller Career and Technical High School after it moves to the new Fletcher campus, when it has been revamped and updated for that new program.
Awesome, thank you very much. Are there any other public comments? Mr. Gehart?
Good news to me. I like the concept.
Any other board members have questions? Ms. Benoit?
So I know a bit about these CDBG grants, and they're difficult. And you got to dot every I and cross every T in order to really get the funding. All South has been very successful in helping in these efforts for other agencies. Are they at all involved in this?
They are. So at the consolidated government level, they have a grant account, a grant fund to the grants management company that is working with them, CSRS. All South has been helping us on our end, and we've been working between Adam and myself, have been working with CSRS at the consolidated government level to make sure that we dot all the i's and cross all the t's, because you're right, if you do anything wrong, you're not going to get the
Right.
funding.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ford?
I have basically two questions. First, who is responsible once once the grant funds are provided and we purchase whatever it is we purchase, there's always a timeline, there's always a checklist, there's always some sort of accountability aspect to it. Who is going to be responsible for maintaining that accountability? Is it going to be us as a district, or is it going to be the parish?
Both. So we will be responsible for maintaining our portion of it, our share of it. All of our documentation will be shared with them as the direct recipient of the funding, but we will also be responsible for providing any information or any procurement practices or policies or anything that we've done as we make our purchases, as we put things into place. We will be responsible as well during any audit, and there will be an audit.
So my follow-up question is going to be, this is for our TCT essentially, and we have a pretty robust program considering what we have in neighboring districts, but we do have a lot of antiquated equipment. So is it going to be up to our facilitators there to basically decide what we're going to purchase, or is it going to be up to the parish?
No, it's up to us, and so we've had a series of meetings with Mr. Dillard, with all of the teachers at TCT, with Mr. Simmons. I believe they've even reached out to some local businesses to see what is the latest and greatest, while we have this opportunity to update, where we make sure that we're getting the most recent technology and the most recent equipment. So it's been a work in progress, and it's been a group effort to make sure that everything that we buy gets us into the future where we need to be.
Okay. And it's going to be in the new building essentially, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nothing will be purchased, well, I can't say that. Nothing will be installed until the new building is ready. We may have to make some purchases ahead of time, but we have room to store it over there while we finish the renovations.
Thank you.
What's the timeline on this money, this block grant?
We will have time to finish the renovations at the new school and get everything installed, and we feel very confident that we can get everything done before the deadline for spending the money.
Okay. Any other board members? Any
The
objections?
building's complete, huh, Fletcher?
He-
That's not.
You got it? Okay. Hearing no objection, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brew. Item number 5, consideration of approval for adoption of a resolution for refunding of the outstanding balance of Series 2016 bonds. The proposed recommendation is that the board approve the attached resolution authorizing the application to the State Bond Commission for the refunding of outstanding Series 2016 bonds. Mr. Marcus Lambert, how you doing, sir?
Thank you. My name is Wes Shafto. I'm a public finance attorney working this transaction. This is preliminary approval to go to the State Bond Commission. Marcus Lambert with D.A. Davidson will explain the financials more, but essentially it's a refinancing of your 2016 bonds at a lower interest rate. There's no extra debt, there's no additional, we're not extending them out. It's just a matter of, as you may be aware, we're actually finally in a lowering interest rate environment, which gives us an opportunity to refinance these bonds and save, make for debt service savings. I'll turn it over to Marcus.
Good evening, everyone. Marcus Lambert, D.A. Davidson. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and explain your options. So in 2016, you issued some capital improvement bonds. I'm not sure exactly what you spent them on, but they're probably building improvements.
Southdown, to be exact. Southdown.
Okay.
Southdown Elementary School.
Perfect. And when those bonds were issued, there was a 10-year period where you weren't allowed to pay them off, you weren't allowed to refinance them, you weren't allowed to do anything with them. Well, they're now what we call callable. You now have the opportunity to get a lower interest rate if it's available. And like Mr. Shafto said, the market is trending in your favor. So there's an opportunity to save some money on your bonds. And if you notice in the approval, so we have to submit this information to the State Bond Commission, and what we send them is perimeters. The bond issue won't go higher than this particular number, and the interest rate won't go higher than this particular number. But the parameters we send the bond commission is not what we're gonna sell your bonds at. It's always gonna be more favorable. But if something happens in the market and we need some flexibility, if we don't have the approval from the bond commission, you have to put the brakes on, back up, come back to you guys, get approval, and then go back to the bond commission again. So we're asking for not to exceed $13,455,000. If we were to sell your bonds today, the bond issue would be about $6.5 million, and we could save you about $425,000, which is about 6% of your debt. So it's significant savings on that penny, on that dollar amount. Now, once the approval's in place and we get all the paperwork ready, we can play the market. Now you can sit back and we could say, okay, it's gonna be favorable. We may be able to refinance some more bonds and get some more savings. So, like Mr. Shafto said, this is preliminary. It gives the bond commission opportunity to look at the financing and get their approval on it. And then once we have the details, we come back to you guys and explain what we think we can do, and then we'll get moving on it. So, if y'all have any questions,
Before we move forward, I did not receive a motion and a second on this recommendation. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion and second. So moved by Mr. Dehart, seconded by Mr. Lagarde. The public comments. Any further public comments? No. Mr. Dehart?
None of this time.
Mr. Lagarde? Anything? Any other board members? Dr. Kluche?
Once you refinance them, are we locked in for another 10-year period like we were on the initial period where you can't change anything?
So typically, when the refunding happens, we could do variable call rates. We could do a 5-year call, we could do an 8 or a 10. It really depends on what the market's gonna accept at that time. So it could very well be, but the way the bonds are set up now is they mature in 2036.
Okay.
So there may not be another opportunity to find a better interest rate or better savings
All right,
than you're gonna get on this round.
okay,
But if we can't do all the bonds, you'll still have an opportunity to refund the ones that we couldn't find savings on.
okay.
Because bonds that are sold in different years and different packages, so you have different interest rates on different years of bonds. So we can go in and pick the high interest rates and go find lower interest rates and just refinance certain bonds.
The other question I had is sometimes, and this is different with bonds, and I'm sure it is with other
Oh, that's okay.
financing, but with other financing, you may find another lower interest rate, but then they charge you points up front, which, you know, they're getting it from you on one end or the other. Does that occur with this as well?
So any and all fees that are charged on a transaction, your savings are always net of the fees.
Okay.
So whatever savings we tell you we can find and what the bond commission is going to judge the transaction on is all your savings are after cost.
Okay.
So it's really a good question because in the bond market, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but you know, you could sell bonds at a premium. You know, if you have a $100 bond, somebody might give you $105 for your bond. So you can collect $5 on your $100. And then they might not like your bonds and they want them at a discount. So you want $100, but they're only going to give you $98 for your bond.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot goes into trading a particular bonds, but you all have a really good opportunity to save some money. You're at that just about at that 10-year mark, and it's time you get in the market and you see what kind of money you can save.
And just for clarification purposes, refunding in this situation is a fancy word for refinancing?
Absolutely. It's just like your house.
Right.
You have a high interest rate, you want to save some money, you go get a low interest rate, your payment goes down.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just wanted that for clarification. Mr. Ford?
So, we've seen you here several times, and you've always been, you know, you come in, you give us this information, we're always very appreciative of it. But I'm gonna ask the obvious question to me, maybe no one else in the room is thinking this, but I kind of want to know what's in it for you guys, right? Because we have a fiduciary responsibility to our constituency, but you guys don't necessarily have that same responsibility to us. So I just want to know, how did this come up? Do you have a reminder on your calendar? Is it something that you guys monitor frequently, periodically? Is it that you guys want us to use you when there would be opportunities for us to go to another outside person to handle this? I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing for our constituency and that we're making the best decision we can, because at the end of the day, we're accountable for it. So,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good question. So we do, so we've worked with you in the past on multiple transactions, and we come to the meetings, we talk about those behind closed doors sometimes and make plans and then come out here and deliver our presentation. But what's in it for us, obviously, we're in the bond business, so we want to transact bond business. So we do, we routinely monitor all of our clients' debt, and we look at the market, and when there's an opportunity, we feel it's a responsibility to let you know there's an opportunity. And we most certainly have a standard of suitability to where we need to make sure we're doing right by the board and right by our investors. We're not municipal advisors, we're investment bankers, but we have your best interest in mind, and we make sure our investors get the best deal they can get as well. So we try to marry all that up, and at the end of the day, you save money for it.
well, that's a perfect answer. That's what I wanted to know, because, you know, we're in here, everyone in this room, well, for the most part, we probably understand exactly what you're talking about. But for the layperson that's watching this in live stream or maybe coming in for their first meeting ever, they may not understand. So.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a
I
good
appreciate it.
question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Crowdis. Marcus, great explanation. You've
Thank
really
you.
cleared up a lot of this for us. My question would be, are we, it says not to exceed the 13 million and change. We've just voted as a board to expand classrooms at South Terrebonne. Just wondering if we could add to this, if the interest rate is so good that you find for us, is it possible to add more than the 13 million?
So on this particular transaction, no.
Okay,
But if you wanted to do a new money transaction on top of it, you could marry the two together, and Wes would do better explaining the legal way to do it, but you can marry the two together, and you can do a refunding and a new money issue.
Yeah, it's called a revenue and refunding
Right.
bond. And it would save you money in the sense that it would be bundled into one transaction.
okay.
You
You don't
save
have to pay two
concession fees.
separate fees for the transaction, in other words. You would pay one transaction fee?
Right, if you bundled it as a revenue and refunding bond, as we call them, then there's some efficiencies there, that's true.
Okay, so we would have time then after, if this is approved, we would have time between this transaction and then the search for the lower interest rate, right? Before if we made a decision that we wanted to add to that.
We would need to make application to the State Bond Commission
Yeah, we
to
would need
do
to
them
amend,
both.
we would probably have to amend the transaction. I mean, it's totally doable. Move forward this, you sort of lock in the refunding piece of it. If you came back to us, to Marcus, and said, we want to combine the transaction, then we would have to go, we would just come back next month, or whenever you decide to do it, and go back to Bond Commission
Okay.
and
You
just
have
get an
time.
amended approval, so we
Okay,
have time.
that was
You
my question,
absolutely
if we
have
had
time.
time and if it was doable. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's
All right,
doable.
thank you.
Mr. Gehart.
I got a question, and it's not about the facts that y'all presented already, which I appreciate, but is right now, the company y'all representing, D.A. Davison and Company,
Yes, sir.
did Jerry Osborne work for this company or no?
No, Mr. Jerry worked for Foley and Judell.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, he's
I remember his
retired.
name, but I didn't remember the company.
He
Yeah,
retired a
Jerry
long time ago.
retired
Oh, yeah.
quite a few years ago. I think he was in business for 60 years.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And he was sharp.
Oh,
Just like
absolutely.
this gentleman here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
You're
sorry.
welcome. No problem.
I just
Any
wanted to
other
know
board
how many
members?
companies do this.
Mr. Ford.
So Debbie opened Pandora's box, so I have a follow-up question. If we were to do the additional amount, would we be bound to the same terms? Would they expire in 2026, or we could do separate terms for that? Okay, yeah, because that would be, you know, that would kind of put us in a bind if we had to be confined to the same terms, but that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Good
Yeah,
question.
we could structure that however you need it to be structural.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any other board members? Do I hear any objections on the motion, on the recommendation? No objections. The motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
all. Y'all have a
Mr.
good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Item number 6, consideration of approval of bids received for ink and toner cartridge contract. Ms. Ali Duga, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications for an ink and toner cartridge contract from Steyer Office World, 1060 West Tunnel Boulevard, Houma, Louisiana, 70360, from December 5th, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Dehart, seconded by Mr. Lagarde. Ms. Ali Duga.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
We had 5 bids. We select the lowest bid.
5 bids, and we selected the lowest one.
Yes.
All right. Do I have any other public comment? Mr. Dehart?
No, sir.
Mr. Lagarde? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Good job.
Thank you, Ms. Duga. Item number 7, consideration of approval of original budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Ms. Becky Bro. The committee recommends that the board approve the attached original budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year for the Building Fund, Workers' Compensation Fund, Loss Fund, Group Insurance Claims Fund, Bond Series 2025 Project Fund, and Special Revenue Funds. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by myself. Ms. Burrell.
Okay. In your packet, all of the budgets that you just listed are included. The first original budget is the building fund. And so the building fund is really a subset of the general fund. It doesn't have any way of making money on its own. So any money that we spend out of the building fund comes from the general fund. But this is an easier way for everyone to see and for us to account for all of these larger projects. So you can see that we have all of our projects listed there. The only income that we do have is from some investments and some interest. We have all of our projects listed there, and then we have a transfer from the general operating fund of $5 million, and that is needed to fully fund all of the projects that we have included in the building fund. The majority of these are already in progress, nearly finishing. These are some rollover amounts from last year that didn't get completed before the end of the fiscal year. We have added an HVAC replacement at Village East. Sammy is having a little bit of trouble keeping that one going, and so we're going to need to start that project very soon. We have the wing addition at South Terrebonne, and pretty much everything else has already been, started and approved by you. The $5 million transfer initially in the general fund, on the general fund side, for the original budget, we had budgeted $2 million, but in order to pay for everything that we have listed here, I had to increase it by $3 million. And you can see that our ending fund balance right now is estimated at $306,000. There was actually an oversight. Sammy, Allie, and I all forgot about the South Terrebonne Art Building that we are renovating to use as a special ed classroom right now. $164,000 will need to come off of the 306, which will really leave us with $141,626. And if it's okay with everybody, I would like to make that amendment before we bring it to the board, just so we can fully account for everything.
Okay.
Okay. Questions on that one before we go on?
I do have a question on, so in looking through this, the budgets and everything, I'm seeing a lot of ESSA Title Is and Title IIIs, and Title IVs, and all these other little things like that. Are these permanent revenue sources, or will these be disappearing at some point in time?
Those are budget revisions. So if we can finish with the budget the original budgets,
Oh,
then we'll
sure,
get to
that's no problem.
that
Yeah.
section next. So
Absolutely.
the building fund, the workers' comp fund, the loss fund, which is where we pay all of our insurance premiums that are not health insurance. All of our property, casualty, fire, flood, all those insurance premiums, as well as the claims related to those, is in the loss fund. The next is a group insurance claims fund. That one is, derives the majority of its money from premiums that are paid either by the board on behalf of employees or by employees for family coverage, for dental insurance, for vision insurance. There's also a transfer from the 1 cent sales tax fund in the amount of $2 million to fully fund this program. And even with that $2 million transfer in, we're still overspending by $2.3 million. So just a reminder that that's expensive to run this group insurance fund, but we did have enough fund balance that we didn't need to transfer more in right now. And then the last original budget of local funds is the capital projects fund for the bonds that we just recently issued for the renovation at Terrebonne High School. So we issued $25 million in bonds. We, I'm sorry, not 25 million, 15 million in bonds. The project is expected to cost about 24 point some odd million. So we had initially budgeted 10 million in the building fund, which it is there on the other page in the building fund. Added to this 14 million here will give us about the 24 million that we're anticipating we will need to pay for this renovation. Bids are out right now. We'll be opening them on December 11th, and then we will know exactly how much to expect for the renovation. And then the last original budget is a special revenue fund budget. It is the Special Olympics Louisiana Unified Champion Schools grant that we received to help pay for our Special Olympics program.
All righty. Mr. Guard, do you have any questions? No? Any of the board members have any questions? Do I have any objections to this recommendation? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 8, consideration of approval of revised budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. The committee recommends that the board approve the attached revised budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year for the special revenue funds. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by myself. Public comment, Ms. Rebecca?
Okay, to go back to your previous question.
Sure.
All of the grants that show ESSA, the ESSA grants, those are all formula grants, so those are pretty much guaranteed funding. The amount can fluctuate depending on our student count, our economically disadvantaged schools, the number of students that we have to service, maybe in special ed or migrant or any of those special populations that these are intended to target, but they are, for the most part, guaranteed funds every year.
All right.
The increase that you see on the vast majority of these right now is what we call the rollover amount. So it's money that we didn't spend last year, rolls over, and we're able to spend it again this year. So we're adding that to our allotment for this year.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Mr. Lagarde? None by myself. Any other board members? Mr. Dehart, and then you'll follow, Ms. Bingwell.
Ms. Bro, I want to make sure I'm on the right page, but state NP textbooks, item 740, account whatever, that's for non-public textbook allocation.
Yes, sir.
Why that's coming out from us?
We are what's called the fiscal agent for non-public textbooks. So the money funnels through the public school system to the non-public schools. This has been like this for 40-plus years, where we are the fiscal agent. So they are allotted textbook money based on their enrollment counts, and all of their purchases come through us. We help them, not help them spend the money, we don't tell them what they can buy, but we help them procure their purchases, and then we get the money paid back from the state to us.
That's the same area that they staff gets, and services and stuff like that, it comes out of the same account?
No, sir, that comes out of Title II generally, but the same idea, where's the fiscal agent.
I know I've been here a long time, but it's very confusing to see the non-public versus public. I'm just saying. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dingwall?
Yeah, just a quick question so that I can understand. In item number 7, we accepted the original budget under the special revenue funds, and then the very next item, we're doing a revised budget of the same funds. And I know you talked about the rollover in the second one, but why isn't it stated as a rollover? That would, to me, be more of an explanation of why we had to do the original and then the second.
So the original budget, we didn't have, the big budget book that we give you, we didn't have that Special Olympics money in that original budget that you've already adopted.
Okay.
So when we did our original budget, we weren't aware, or we hadn't been awarded this money yet. We had applied for it, but we hadn't been awarded it. So it's not included in the original budget that the board has already adopted. That's why this one is an original. Same thing with the building fund, the group health fund, and all of those. They're not in the original budget that you adopted several months ago. The revisions are ones that you did adopt in the big budget adoption when we did it a few months ago, but we're now amending them or revising them with updated allotments.
Okay.
So that's why they're not original anymore, they're revisions, because you've already adopted an original budget.
I get it. It's just that terminology of updating or, would have been more of an explanation on the number 8 item so that I could see the difference in the
Right.
two. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dingwall. Any other board members? Any objections?
Okay.
One objection by Mr. Dehart. With only one objection, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Brew.
Thank you.
Item number 9, matter bearing upon monthly budget to actual comparison reports. Information only, Ms. Klingman, Ms. Michelle Klingman. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. For the
Good
month of September, sales collections are up 15.94%. So we reached out to the sales tax office at the parish to get explanation on it since it was so large. Right. So the sales for goods and services in September are collected by that sales tax office in October. They went to a new software system, and it required everyone, all of the filers, to file a return in October. Some of those filers are quarterly filers, semi-annual, as well as annual. So in October, they had about 2,000 returns more than what they should have or normally would have. So it's possible, and they are anticipating, that our December collections will take a dip to kind of level this out and kind of average out for the year.
Hopefully we end up
We've
with a positive number.
collected
right?
earlier than what we normally would in a calendar year for some tax filers.
Gotcha. Okay. Are there any questions by the board? All righty. Thank you, Ms. Kling.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. There being no further business before the Finance Committee, the meeting is adjourned. Pass it over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr.